Now, the World Food Programme, or WFP, says it provides assistance in nourishment to 91.4 million people in 83 nations. It also says 1 in 4 people in sub-Saharan Africa is undernourished. These are staggering statistics that are further exacerbated by global conflicts and raging famine. The World Food Programme's Executive Director, David Beasley, is in South Africa, and he joins us now to talk a little bit more about it. Good to meet you, David. Thank you very much for coming in.
Well, it's good to be here with you. Thank you.
You know, we look at these numbers, 91.4 million people in 83 nations. I think you were telling me just before here, it's actually higher than that.
Well, the number of people in extreme hunger has gone up in the last 2 years. And this is what's so sad with all the wealth and technology today. The extreme hunger rate's gone from 80 million to 124 million in just 2 years. So you have to ask the question, why?
Yeah.
Conflict, war, Syria, Iraq, Yemen, South Sudan, Somalia, Northeast Nigeria, and we can go on and on. 80% of our expenditures today are in war zones, and it's taken money away from developing nations that need the assistance so we can truly end world hunger as we know it today. And I do believe we can end world hunger if we can end the wars and conflicts.
And these, of course, are the most vulnerable of society. I mean, you talk about people that are in these war-torn countries, but predominantly children and women. I mean, this is what you see all the time.
The brunt of conflict is women and children. DRC, for example, a nation just, above us here, 7 million people literally don't know where the next meal is going to come. 2.2 million children in the DRC are on the brink of starvation. This is literally more children than all 4 countries that were facing famine just last year. This is just horrible.
Yeah, yeah. You know, when we sort of look at South Africa, I mean, we're a food exporter and provider. What is the role that South Africa plays in all of this? I mean, do we help provide food for the World Food Programme as well?
Yes, South Africa is a great partner, and as well as providing us food. Now, we buy a lot of food from South Africa, about 360,000 metric tons in the last 5 years, about $170 million worth of food. Now, we purchase that, but at the same time, we do get support from the South African government to work with smallholder farmers, but also we call it Swaziland, but it's learning the Eswatini and Lesotho. And so we provide help through the South African government there. And so South Africa, the government, we believe is in a strategic role, position to play with regards to the Southern African region. And we know that. And we are asking them to be more engaged with us as they are to provide leadership in addressing the hunger issues throughout the Southern African region.
Let's look at home, though, because a lot of people will be sitting at home and saying, hang on a second, yes, we can help others, but let's look within our own country. And a lot of people are struggling here. And I mean, what does research say about South Africa in terms of that?
Well, you've got a stunting issue, as you do in most of Africa, but the stunting issue is where I believe that South Africa, the leadership is working, the safety net programs, what more can they do? And we provide a lot of guidance around the world. You know, South Africa is a middle, upper income country, and so there's a lot of good news, but there's a lot more that needs to be done.
Yeah, that certainly does. When we look at how the World Food Programme works, and I know that, I mean, just from my experience of going into refugee camps, in fact, we're actually hoping to come live from one of the refugee camps in Malawi. I know that you provide the food to the refugee camps. That's how it works, pretty much so, predominantly through the UNHCR as well.
Well, with the UNHCR, the refugee operations, we work in partnership with them in countries all over the world. We feed millions of refugees. And then at the same time, we're also feeding, as you alluded to earlier, over 90 million people around the world on any given day in over 80 some odd countries. But refugees, about 22 million refugees today. There's about 65 million people in the world that are displaced. involuntarily displaced, and of which about 22 million of them are refugees. And so we're engaged with many of those people around the world, regardless of where that might be.
How do you choose foods? You know, it's always sort of, you think to one, I mean, we talk of staple foods, but how do you classify a staple food? Because, I mean, we're all told what you should have and you shouldn't have, but at the end of the day, it's very difficult to feed that amount of people and yet try and give all the nutrients that you can without stunting growth. How does the World Food Program work?
Nutrition is a critical and vital part of this, because it's not just about getting calories, it's about getting the right calories. And that's one of the problems you have around the world, and especially in Africa, in southern Africa. You have some places you have sufficient calories, but they're eating only maize. And so the stunting rate is terrible. Huge. And that not only just affects them physically, but also mentally. But let me compound this with climate change. We're talking about 40% of the maize production over the next 10 years being in jeopardy because of the rising heat. And the maize is not that heat resilient. And so the good news is that we might be able to take advantage of that bad problem by hopefully encouraging the leaders in countries, you must provide more drought-resilient crops. And the good news is there are drought-resilient crops like beans, lentils, sorghum, millet, that will provide the diverse diet that people need. So the bad news is drought is impacting, climate change is impacting the world, and particularly this region. The good news, we need to take advantage of that so that we can change habits where people eat nothing but maize. We've got to get them into these other crops, these other very important micronutrient
and that's something that I did notice. Everything is about maize, breakfast, lunch and supper, and nothing more than that. Just finally, as we conclude, funding is always a big issue. Are you finding, but we find ourselves in very difficult financial times as a globe, all around the world. Is your funding decreasing? Of course, in America, you have a new president. And, let's get a perspective on that.
A very important issue. And when I took this role, the United States was providing about $1.9 billion out of our $5.7 to $5.9 billion budget. Our budget now is about $7 billion. And the good news, I mean, everybody was scared to death. Oh, the United States is going to back off its commitment. And it's one of the reasons I took this position, to try to make certain the United States did not. And in fact, Washington, D.C., the Trump administration, the Republicans and Democrats, when they're fighting against each other on everything, they seem to have come together on this issue. In fact, this past year, 2017, we received $2.5 billion from the United States, a $600 million increase. In this region alone, the United States has given over $1 billion just in the last few years. So the United States continues to lead, and in this region, then you have Germany and UK, and so they've been great partners stepping up. But because the hunger rate has been going up because of conflict, we need more money. And so it's a difficult situation, and so we need more money, bottom line, so we can address every child in the world. Every 5 seconds a child dies from hunger. With the amount of wealth in the world today, $300 trillion, there should not be one child in the world going to bed hungry, much less dying. Shame on us. We've got to do a better job in the world, and we got to end the wars.
And that's the biggest cause of all of this. Thank you for talking to us. Thanks for stopping by. I know that you are here just for a short while, and then you head off to different countries here in Africa. The World Food Program's Executive Director, David Beasley, thank you very, very much for talking to us on the program.
Thank you.
Let's take a break here. When we return, Nkosi Apleni has handed in his resignation as the Director General of Home Affairs. Sakina is going to chat to him about his future and, of course, his time at Home Affairs, 10 years to be exact. Do stay tuned for that.